Jay Chuck did a good upload, and so I want to speak a bit uh, about searching techniques and mention a couple of things here. So here we go. That he mentioned. Well, let's click on his video. The grid search, which is what I went up and I tried to do, but I knew I was overwhelmed right at the start. So see his grid work in here. Okay, but the area is so vast and I ran out of time so quick. Depending on what a person believes, that they can use a different search grid. A search grid doesn't have to be back and forth. It can be like three dimensional and be winding around. So uh, let me go first to the picture. I'll show the picture real quick and then go to Google. Well, let's go to Google Earth first. That like there's my path. Okay, so first of all, uh, a person has to apply their belief to their search method. So I I personally don't believe that Kenny Veach went to the mine and left his stuff. So clearly the areas down here can be ruled out. They can be ruled out. He would have been found. It's been searched. It's close to the mine. That's where they were looking. Well, maybe he fainted and staggered over here. That's been searched. So big areas can be ruled out. That's kind of why I beelined up like I did, because I ruled this out. Okay, so there's one uh, amount of area that can be ruled out. Lower, obvious, out in the open. Okay, and then second comes whether he intentionally hit himself and ended his own life. Well, then you can rule out also out in the open. Uh, and then you'd search up the sides where he could have gone and go up here. So the search pattern would be more like this, kind of like what I was trying to do, and then come down here. Because see, I didn't go in the middle; he wouldn't be there; he would have been found. So that's the key point on that one. He wouldn't be any place preposterously open or close. He would have been found. So, for instance, let's take search area 2. This is the one Jay Chuck drew his grid work on, right? And here's where he drew it. Okay, so a person could rule out down below and go up higher, uh, and then figure he could have went up here or wherever. But now let's assume that a person, whoever it is, has the mindset that he got injured, that he went up on a hike and fatally injured and fell off or fell over and hit his head or broke ribs, punctured lungs, whatever. Okay, well, then they could rule out areas over here where a person would not go if they were just hiking. Like if he went on a hike and then got hurt on the way down, well, he's not going to be over here going to hide himself up here, like I keep talking about, that he would be along the washes and go up and up and up, and then you get to the point where you get to these cliffs, and then that's where the people would search if they believe that. But that has been searched. So in other words, my point is that a lot of the area, like see this vast area here, you could do a grid work and it's too much to go back and forth, zigzag, zigzag. A lot of it could be ruled out. A lot of it could be ruled out. Another thing I want to speak to is that if a person, okay, when I got up to the mine, I still had daylight. That I don't want people to think I think or am saying that it was getting late, it was cold, the day's end like 4:30 or 5, it's getting dark, and it was cold that time of year. That he went up to the mine and he only would have made it a few feet. No, I never said that. That when I got up there, I started earlier than what he did, but when I got up there, I had hours. I did all this. I had hours to do this. Okay. So now picture that he gets to the mine, leaves his final belongings, and then goes traipsing off. So a person has to believe that he's along here. He could be up here. He hid himself. He's trying to hide himself. He said, I won't be found, and did this and that and the other thing. Well, just keep in mind that he did have hours. If he wanted to beeline it, especially with few supplies or no supplies, knowing that what he was going to do, he could he couldn't go running, but he could make it up into the hills if he wanted. But I mean, it takes a lot. You get up there, you're kind of tired, and you don't want to climb up to the top of the mountains. But he could have, suppose a person 40 miles to the north. Okay, he wouldn't have done no 40 miles like he said he was going to do. But if you get to the mine, you definitely have the time to go here and along here for quite a distance. Not as far as he said, way off up here, or climb up to Sheep Peak. But you could make it away from the mine at least some distance. But I think this has to be ruled out first because after all, it'd be hard to search every square inch, and it really hasn't been. But there's a couple of theories on search methods so that a large percentage of this open area, of this vast area, a large percentage of it can be ruled out. For instance, right up here where I went, well, of course they've been up there, so he's not there. So you can rule that out. So if you start taking an eraser brush, like in Photoshop, and erase all of the obvious, and then you end up with some stuff that could still be questionable. It could be an area along the sides here. If it's going up cliffs and mountains, you can rule that out. So you could have a relatively small area, but hard to go up and down a little bit, and rule out going up and spending a day going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, right near the mine. Which I know Jay Chuck didn't say that. That's not what I meant. But you get my point. So there's different systems that a person can do to rule out these vast areas that they can use. Also, I wanted to address the thing about search and rescue. And his comments, somebody said, I think it was him, if Kenny was that close and search and rescue did not see it, and I find him, you have to question their abilities. Okay, but let's understand this, even based on what I've said, I've never said bad stuff about search and rescue, that they have two different things. The type of people searching now is different. It's a different concept. Search and rescue goes up to try to search and rescue a person that could still be alive. They don't go up week after week to solve a mystery for TV and internet excitement. They don't have it in their budget, and the law even says the odds that we will search is either not at all or much less if any foul play was involved, uh, or if the person was a suicide and went up and wanted to hide themselves and kill themselves. They're not going to put a lot into it, especially after the time goes by and it's clearly recovery. So Red Rock Search and Recovery does that, and they do it quite well. That does not mean they're mystery solvers that go up there and have searched under every bush. They can't search everywhere based on every contingency. What if he had a stroke and went half crazed way off in the middle of nowhere and dug down under the sand and covers himself with bushes? They're not going to do that. It's not in their budget. So at any rate, search dogs would have purpose up there if you take them right to the area, but they certainly didn't lead anybody up to the mine. They didn't follow Kenny Beach's scent up to the mine. But if you take them up there, they do have a purpose for finding a cadaver. But even then, it's a vast area, and it's not an area that dogs are good at. But I wanted to explain that Red Rock Search and Rescue is great at what they do, but they do not go up there search every inch to solve mysteries years later. And so let's click on them. Now here's a picture that the method that I'm talking about. Okay, my method, suppose I go up every day. My method is that I'm a took his own life view. And so therefore, I wouldn't necessarily go right up the middle or on the washes because he would have been found. It would have been found. They did look in the obvious areas. So for my beliefs, I would go up, and this is what I did, and work the edges and look up there and work along and work along and work along and work along, and then come back and then work along the edges and look at some area where he might be up 20, 30 feet of elevation, maybe 75 feet up and never be found. Okay. In other words, you can rule out actually to zigzag like I did even in here. I should have ruled that out. When I saw what I was up against, I should have just stuck to what I was doing and going like this. And then maybe there he is. He's behind there. There's a nice little alcove, and he's there, rather than going here, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So you see what I'm saying? So the search, instead of a grid work, The grid work could be like this. Up, oops, up along, back along, up along, like this, and going smaller and smaller, and up higher and higher when you're up high. In other words, up higher and the edges first. And if you think the opposite, that he hurt himself, well, then that person would do just the opposite. Okay, I've got to end this.